I want to talk to some of you guys that are new to the demolition derby world. Some of you guys that really have only done one or two, or maybe even you haven't even done one demolition derby yet. You guys look at me and you see all these cars and you think that this is it. You think this is what you have to do to be a demolition derby driver. It's really not. Now, you see this car? This car looks like junk, and I'm telling you right now, this car is junk, like complete and utter junk. But there's still a lot of useful pieces inside here that I'm going to keep, like the cage, the gas tank, my bracket, my battery holder, my switches, stuff like that. Like because I have run so many Toyotas, I'm going to save a lot more pieces out of this. But I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. And this is something that you're not really told a lot. This is something that's going to be coming right from me as another demolition derby driver. That's something I really wished I did when I was first getting into the sport. And let me show you what that is. It involves another derby car. It involves another Toyota Camry. Now, you guys may think this is a pre-run car. Where did I run this? This is a pre-run car, but I didn't run this. This was actually ran by a friend that I know, and he said he was going to scrap the car, and he said he didn't really want anything back out of it. So I bought it. I paid, believe it or not, paid a half decent price for this, but what I paid for it is actually what I will get over the scrapyard. What I really bought this motor for was the motor, what I really bought this car for was the motor transmission. But say if you were buying the car, this car came with a cage. This cage is a pretty nice cage. He's already got out some pieces. It comes with a very large gas tank protector back here. It is not the best cage, but you know what? As a beginner driver, this is a good cage. It comes with a lot of switch panels. Now again, these things are not hard to make, but they're already made. Why wouldn't you use them if they're already made? It comes with a shifter. Now this shifter is a factory Toyota Camry shifter, but he's modified it so then that way you don't have to push the button. He's made it so that you can shift through the gears very smoothly. It's come with just a whole bunch of random parts that is actually pretty good for you, even right down to the fire extinguisher mount, the front window mounts. Now I know this is nothing that is spectacular, but if you're a new derby driver and you're just trying to get into the sport as cheap as you can, this saves you from buying a lot of stuff. If you go and you try to find somebody's used car, it will come pre-built. So for example, this one here has already come with a square tubing bumper that I could cut off and reuse again. He's got a couple plate on it. I know that it's not really worth it for me to cut this plate off, but by doing this, I can also see how other drivers build their cars to be competitive. Where this went, it went to the reservation, so it's completely different rules than everywhere else, so you just basically have to ignore this plate. But if you take a look, there is steel up to the front 6 inches. You can notice how he does stuff, like how his transmission lines are looped. These cars are a learning experience, especially when you're new to the game. You can see what's gone and what's coming and how the car bent. Like, this car even came with a, not very good, but a set of doubles still. You could cut that down and have an outer rim on it, and that's still a tube tire. Sometimes buying used cars, even for scrap price, like this car here will not be run again, but if you were able to buy a car that could still have 1 or 2 more runs in it, it gets you in the ring in a pretty good built car. Like, you can buy a little bit more work done to a car than what you know to do, and then while you work on it, you find out where it bends, you find out what they've done to it, and it gives you some little helpful hints and tricks to get you into a better situation when you build your next car. Like this thing here, I'm pretty happy with my buy. By the time I take it into the scrapyard, I'm probably going to lose $20 on it, but I get 2 struts, 2 axles, a motor, a transmission, wiring harness, computer, subframe's junk, but I can save other things. It gets me a cage. Now, this is not like the style of cages I usually run, but this will go into another Camry pretty easily. It's going to be coming out pretty shortly. It gets me a non-power seat. I know that a lot of you guys don't really care about that, but I care about that because these seats keep breaking for me. It gets me 4 toggle switches that are not bad, mounted in a nice location. I've honestly never thought to build it like that. And it gets me a power cable, a nice half-decently heavy-duty power cable. The battery box, I actually get that. The only thing that he wants back is the roof sign. So, I don't know, I think this was a pretty good buy for me. Like I said, I'm losing 20 bucks and I had to drive about 35 minutes out of my way. But when I'm done, I get a lot of parts that will actually be worth it in the long run. When I'm going to the scrap yards right now, I'm paying about $15 to $20 per used axle to have spares. So realistically, that's 2 axles. I'm paying, I think it's 20 bucks per strut at the scrapyard. So there's now $80 just in the struts and the axles. I also get spindles, brakes. I get a complete motor that runs and drives and stops. He says the transmission's getting a little iffy, but I'm not too sure. I'm gonna have to try to check it for fluid, because that's into the radiator. It may have just lost some fluid. If that's the case, then that's an easy fix. But, I don't know. Sometimes buying a used car that's been through 1 or 2 derbies that's not this mangled in the front, not that mangled, that you can get away with another derby is sometimes a very smart buy. It gets you in the seat really fast. It gets you into a car that the person that you buy it off may know a lot more about demolition derbies than yourself. So then they can kind of teach you by you buying their used stuff and seeing what they've already done. Now this car here, I'm actually going to start this off by removing the cage and then removing the battery box and then starting to cut the front of this car off. I'm pretty much going to start right where it's sitting because it seems to be a good spot. Let's go get the torches out. So with about an hour and 30 minutes invested, now it's a little bit faster for me because I had a torch. I have the bumper off, I have the front rad cradle cut off, I have the complete halo bar, which there's your crossbar, there's your halo, back window bar, and your gas tank protector right there. Also came with some other goodies like the switch panel. That's a pretty easy to build switch panel, but still it's built. I don't have to build it. I got my power cable. I got my battery box. But this stuff has all been cut out now, and this can be reused in another car. It came out pretty easily. It can be welded back in again pretty easily. So this is one of the advantages of buying a pre-ran derby car. One, you get a lot of parts for cheap, if not free, because basically what I paid for the car, I got all of the supplies with it. Now this doesn't happen with every car. I see a lot of used cars being sold for $500–600. But if you get them right before they're going to scrap and Buddy doesn't want to cut out his cage, then you can cut out the cage and then scrap the car and get all the money and basically the cage for free. Another way to do it is you get to learn some things. Like I noticed that he did his front end a little bit differently than mine, and I don't really know if it worked out, but he got 3 derbies out of it. Just little things like how he's done his struts where he take his brakes off. Usually that's bolted on there. It looks like these struts are actually brand new struts, so I'm not really too sure on how that works, why there's brand new struts on a demolition derby car. But I'll take it, because it's got two of them that are pretty much brand new. But like I said, how I view it as is this car was an investment. I put some money in, I get some money out, and then I get some more money out. But the next step tomorrow after work, because the sun's starting to go down, I need to have some dinner, get a shower, and go to bed so I can be at work tomorrow. But after work tomorrow, we're going to get this car running. Now, electrical is a thing that you guys are always a little bit scared of. I know that from what I get people telling me that electrical is the #1 thing that kind of sets people back on these cars. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut out all this electrical, we're going to install my harness, and then we're going to see if this car runs, drives, and stops. Even with the front end off this car, it will run, drive, and stop. So that's tomorrow's task, and then we'll clean all this up, and then we'll basically just save what we need. But I'll put the battery up here, fuel tank down there, try to get this thing to run. So thanks everybody for watching, and like I said, you don't have to build a car from scratch from your first one. Sometimes buying pre-ran is a little bit better, and even at the state I am now, I've been derbying now for probably 8 years, I'm still buying pre-ran cars to get parts that are not that easy to come by. Like, I know that tubing's easy to buy, but this one's already cut to length, ready to go. Just weld her back on. All this cage is already cut to fit in a Camry, so you just drop it in, weld it in, good to go. You got to put out these cars as fast as you can, guys. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.